we celebrate Father's Day in just a week on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. And of course, fathers are very, very important figures in our lives. But to start off, I'd like to say a good morning and welcome back from Good Morning Family. This is Issues at Hand. My name is Nowamani, and I'm here to go through another topic, a very interesting one at that, because everybody out there has a father, but there are no fathers without mothers. So today, I have a very special guest in studio. Her name is Reverend Canon Diana Nkesiga. I'm very, very privileged and humbled to be with her in studio. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good
morning. Good morning to the viewers. Yes.
All right. We will be discussing Father's Day, or fathers in general, the role of fathers in our everyday lives, the role of responsible fathers, especially Christian ones, because we are a Christian-dominated station. But before we start, I told you earlier, there are no fathers without mothers. So I'd like to first take a look at who Reverend Diana is, and why she chose to serve Christ at a very, very early age. If you know about her, you know that she's one of the clergy that was first ordained long, long time ago. And we want to understand why exactly did she choose to serve Christ at a very young age.
Praise the Lord.
Amen.
Yes, I did choose to serve Christ at a very early age. I think because becoming a teenager is a very awkward time in our lives, and especially as girls, there's so much going on, not only in our bodies, but in our minds, and in terms of being defined as a person. And I was a very shy person, and most people don't believe that. But when I gave my life to Christ, God started defining me. And I responded to God's deep love for me, and it gave me so much confidence. In school, people kept voting me in as a leader. I never came to the forefront. I thought, I should be in the background. But he kept giving me places of leadership. But one of the major things was when I went back to my school after doing education, I was made an assistant chaplain. I was thrown into it. And I came across children, and particularly girls who had been wounded, who had been hurt. And I started a conversation with God. And that conversation propelled me into theological college, because I wanted the scriptures to mean something, to speak, to bring healing and restoration to wounded people's lives. So that's where I found myself. But also I think being in a girls' school, we were taught we could be anything, and I wanted to serve the Lord.
Okay.
Yes.
Very interesting. Over the years, what are some of the lessons learned that maybe a young girl could take home, even a young gentleman actually?
Well, first of all, I want to, because our focus is really fathers today, I really want to appreciate my father, the late Edward Hugo Sematimba Barlow. One of the things that gave me confidence as a young girl was I had a father who was present, not present in terms of being in the home, but present in our lives, influencing, impacting, guiding, directing, and loving us as girls. And that gives a girl so much confidence. Me, I got married later in life because, I knew I had a father. I wasn't running away from a home where you're like, you hadn't had a father's love. It's so important. And I really I realized that those are the things that gave me stability and focus in life.
Okay, we'll get back to that because we are seeing the number of single mothers going high. But before we get to that, how easy was it for you to enter this male-dominated field and thrive?
Well, it's a long story. and that's why I wrote the book, Woven in Spirals. My journey was spiral. I thought, if you read and you have felt and heard the call and expressed it, and you've been backed up by people, that it would be a straight path. But there were many, many lessons to learn for me, as now I call them lessons, which molded me into something that is useful and gave me a unique ministry. I found a lot of resistance. I think not just resistance now, I talk about it as a lot of fear. A young girl wanting to go in the priesthood. Perhaps they saw me as naive, young, and some people probably resisted because they wanted to protect me. And I was not happy for some time because every time I was, there were delays. There were so many katebes. There were so many, hold on. And actually, in that space, God wasn't quiet. When I was on the katebe, he was active. I worked on the periphery of the church. And at the time when I thought that, okay, this is it, if the church doesn't feel ready for me, I'll work outside the church. And that's when the church came to me. I'm like, God, you're confusing me. I thought, let me fold up this, work with an NGO. I can still work for Christ.
Okay.
So there it is. Many. There are many hurdles. And I've written about them. Okay. Not in an angry way, in a way that I believe will bless and teach people lessons.
Okay.
Yes.
I believe in that period there must have been scenarios where you had to forgive someone for. Was forgiveness easy? Did it come did it come easy for you to forgive? And what can you tell us, the young people, about forgiveness?
Oh my God. Like, I shouldn't be saying that. I had to forgive from the very time they placed hands on me. I remember the weight. When you're being priested, every priest in the diocese actually puts their hands on you at some stage in the service. And I remember being kept out of the retreat just before my priesting. And I said to God, I think this is it. But one of the bishops, Melchizedek, then of Northern Uganda, sat me down for 3 hours and convinced me I was called and I should lay aside all the rejection and look to Christ. But I remember that moment when I felt the pressure of all these hands on me, and I'm thinking, Lord, what am I taking on? And you are given the power, the authority to forgive, the keys to forgive. And at that moment I was saying, I forgive you all. Forgiveness is releasing. If you focus on what you see is the challenge, you miss out on the lesson.
True.
So you have to keep releasing. You have to learn to deal with those emotions of like, let me react in the way that they've reacted towards me. Or maybe I actually learned also that sometimes people are even ignorant about how you feel, that they've even rejected you. So I don't blame them. I thank God he allowed me to go through that process. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the unique person that I am today.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true. Okay, let's get into a discussion of especially emancipated women these days. Many NGOs are pushing for women. They are pushing for women's rights. They are pushing for women to be on top, women to be dominating. But we are seeing a problem when it comes to boys. Nobody is reaching out to them, or men. Nobody is teaching them how to be a man, before even being a father, how to carry
Yes,
themselves
yes.
as a man. Why is this happening, and how can we solve that issue?
Well, I want to thank God because why I am interested in the boy child is that God placed two handsome boys in my hands. And those are my sons, and I know I shouldn't leave them behind. The emancipation of women, I think because it was up against resistance, I think, people pushed and pushed and pushed. And yes, there was a highlight on women. There was opportunities opened up for women. The language changed for women. And I think the men sat back and they thought, okay, so how do we fit into this whole puzzle? And it's understandable. Yes, I don't think it's just women's emancipation. I think they've been missing fathers in many homes. And women, yes, we can teach our children to be strong. We can teach them to rise up and take their place. But we're not men. For example, I'm widowed, so I find male good role models, male role models in my life, and I push my children towards those. And I thank God for people who have been fathers to them during this period when they were teenagers, when they lost their father. But the boy child, just like any emancipation, when someone has been on the periphery or has been downtrodden, when the others rise, then you've taken a new position. The others then don't know who to be in that space. And I think we need to rise up, because in that space, we were created male and female, and we were supposed to rule over this earth together. And we don't know what it is to be co-workers, co-parents. I think some women also, I want to say, they pushed out the men, and that wasn't the purpose of that, because we'd then be doing the reverse. If we had been previously felt pushed out, we weren't allowed to be fully who God had called us be, then we don't do it by pushing out the male, because the male needs to be fully who he should be for us to operate in a space that will be powerful, influential, and will raise good, godly families.
Okay, talking about growing up in the right path, you founded a school, Stepping Stones.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to relate this conversation to you a lot, because there's really, really a lot of things that you have done. I just want to know what inspired you to start the school?
Stepping Stones is a school I started in South Africa. I had just arrived, and I thought, with all the emancipation of women in South, I thought I'd be given a space. And again, I found myself on Akatebe. But I refused to sit down and just wait. So one, I was very active in the HIV/AIDS field.
Yes.
And two, I was a teacher. I had a gift. And I looked at the schools then, where we were in the little town of Ngobo in Transkei. And I saw black people didn't have the opportunity for quality education. So there was a church, and there was huge space, and it was empty. So I asked them for permission. Okay, if I can't be behind the altar, can I teach your children? And I taught. And in the first year, this was when they were integrating. We took our children for interviews to one of the what they call them then, multiracial schools. And even the headmistress came out to say, who taught these kids English? Who has given these children a foundation? And she accepted them all. I remember receiving those kids and speaking Xhosa alone. And I was scared out of my boots because I didn't know Xhosa and I didn't know how I would direct them. But children are amazing.
Yes.
If given
Xhosa is their language?
Xhosa is their first language. And I spoke, I acted, I dramatized, I sang myself to death. And these children picked it up. And I was amazed. I was amazed, yes. So that was one of my spaces of, I didn't know how to keep still. So I said, okay, I have a little boy who should be starting preschool. There's space in this church. I want him to have a quality education. So I started a school.
What were some of the impactful lessons you learned through now the school, because of the school? Because it's different from church. But let's look at the school itself. What did you learn from that experience?
The school, it was amazing. I don't know I think when you're young, you have energies that you don't. Mobilizing, administration. I learned how to. Well, my husband was the builder. He was always building constructions. He said, "We'll build the church. Let's start in our sitting room." I realized children imitate us.
Very true.
Actually, when a child sees a female priest up at the altar, we now see children imitating, saying, "Okay, I'm Reverend Diana now.
True.
Everybody sit properly," and they begin trying to teach and preach and imitate you. So kids are they are watching us, and they pick up the mood that there is. They're very sensitive to us, and so they're very impressionable. And if you do what is right, they will love what is right.
Very true.
And they would like to follow into your footsteps. Yes.
Okay. We saw later that you married the doctor, and he was also he had the same zeal for Christ. So my question would be, how should we pick the right partners? Because picking the right partner will make sure, or will lead to them being a present father or not. If you make the wrong choice, then that is where single motherhood comes in.
I'm now a marriage counselor, and I think my situation and everybody's situation is unique. I remember at the time I went into theological college, my siblings were like, "Come on, this is the time you get married." But I had such, my call was deeper than that. And there was an opportunity to get married at that time. I won't tell you to who or who. But when I had to make a choice between getting married and going to theological college, it was very clear for me. One of the things is, age 21, 23, that some of my peers got married, I felt very young.
Daddy's girl.
Yeah, I'm daddy's girl. I still have a dad to take care of me in my life. And I was not ready to take care of a household and all the complications between that. I thought, no, let me do some more study, let me do. And I think at the time I got married in 1989, I was going to turn 29, and in our generation it was like, Okadi. We almost, my cousin said, we thought, you're too holy to get married. I said, what's this? But maturer conversations. It was a cross-cultural thing. We said, what happens? What happens when two priests get married to one another? This is a unique, we had no role models. We had never seen a male-female priest married to one another. And so we started having plans, and we worked with senior, we actually chose 3 people who would tell us straight in the face what we would. We refused to go for the people say, oh, yeah. They're the yes. So I remember one of them was Bishop Murray. We went up to him, we said, we're beginning to walk together towards marriage. We're not sure if that's the right thing. Whoa! He asked my husband some very hard questions. Then secondly, we went to Bishop Muhima. They were not bishops. They were both not bishops then.
At the time.
And Bishop Muhima was gobsmacked. He was like, he couldn't see this Chihihi boy and this city girl. How does it work? I actually think he didn't know what to say. He just said, okay, we'll see what God does. And then thirdly, an uncle of mine, he's passed now. He was very open-minded. It was Dennis Barlow, Tata Dennis Barlow. Very open-minded, very, frank and whatever. So I took Solomon to him, and I said, Solomon, this is him. We are on the path. We're not joking. We want to go towards the altar, but we'd like not only your counsel, but we'd like to tell us the truth.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, they spoke frankly to us. We weren't afraid of the truth, and many people didn't think we would make it. And then he finished a year before me, and I told him, no. He wanted to marry me in 88. I said, Sebo, I didn't come here to get married. So I said, you go off and start ministry for a year, and we'll see. God will test us, and we will see if this is the right thing. But there's a maturity. The reason you're getting married are not because of these fuzzy-wuzzy they were there, those fuzzy-wuzzy feeling. There's something more. You're maturer. You're like, okay, I have ministry. Would you be able to walk with me in ministry? I'm a female. They haven't really accepted females in ministry.
Yes.
So I think we asked deeper and hard questions, but also we were more mature.
Okay.
In terms of the early stage where you have this, you're thinking of this wonderful wedding, the Princess Diana type, and how much money do I have? We were like the really nitty-gritties. We are going to be 2 priests. We can't have 8 children. We had to debate. It was between 3 and 2. I said, if they are both girls, would you accept it? You Muchiga, will you accept it? Hard questions. He asked me, you Muganda, if you have only 2 boys and no girl, won't you miss out on a girl? We said no. We'll accept whichever 2 God gives us, if he gives us children.
Okay.
And so he got his 2 boys, and later on in life I just picked up 2 girls.
You felt the gap, and so you adopted 2 girls.
I don't think it was a gap. There was a need for my daughters, and I thought, why not? Their story is a different story. They should tell it for them. But God gave me love for them, and I thought, why not? They were much older. I picked them up. Okay. So I have 2 daughters as well. Amazing.
All right, let's go for a short break. But when we return, we look at the role of a responsible father, especially in today's generation. Stay with us. It's Issues at Hand. Oh yes, like you had it, Entebbe Protea Hotel by Marriott is, of course, your comfort place in case you need anything of luxury. That is gym, fully stocked health hub, as well as swimming, and of course buffet And in case you want to stay for the night, it is the place to be. They have very, very excellent services. We are still in studio with Reverend Canon Diana Nkesiga discussing the role of fathers, responsible fathers in our society. And I'd like to get straight to the question, what is the role of a father?
Well, a father is a very important part of the family. Mm-hmm. He, first and foremost, is a co-parent. Because we're talking about father, not a husband. Mm-hmm. He's a co-parent with his spouse, the wife, mm-hmm. and together they lead the family. Mm-hmm. A father, first of all, let me share my experience with a father.
Yes.
My father was my protector. Behind my father, you know, they're your heroes, especially us as girls.
Very true.
They are heroes. When our fathers are present, there's a confidence that is built up in us. Fathers are first of all, our protectors. But they are also, many people look at them as providers. The whole thing of he goes out there, provides. But me, I'm into the relationship that he builds with each child. And it's so important because in him, he role models relationships, healthy relationships. He's an enabler. A father can either, and I'm talking about a positive enabler because we have enablers who can, this is a drunkard, I can also follow suit. A positive enabler. The fathers need to know they are gifts and that when they do the right thing, the positive thing, the impact they have on our lives is for life. I had parents who had they socialized us that you did not look down upon anybody because of their social status or their gender or their tribe. And so I got very confused when Idi Amin sent the Indians away. I was like, hey. I didn't know the difference between a Muganda and a Mutesu. I would say, hey, the other day we were doing this, and my father would always test me. So where does he come from? And I say, he's a Muganda, of course. And I said, he'd ask, who is he? And I'd say, Mr. Onyanga. And he would laugh, and he would never correct me. Because I think he saw it as good that I didn't see tribe, I didn't see. Yes. My father treated everybody. My mother treated people with dignity, whether you're the laborer, whether you're the professor. That's what we were. The father, together with the mother, and you'll see me that I'm saying
Yes.
They're the planner. They must have a vision for this family. The biggest problem, actually you asked me earlier, is that we fall in love, we melt, and we're together, and people, they keep asking you, hey, Muzala D. But without a vision, you can lose the plot. There's so much against fatherhood in this day and age. In our old days where you didn't have all this social media, I remember if you were a teacher and your father worked in the bank, if he was transferred, the bank had the obligation to transfer your mother to a school nearby, so you weren't living in Arua and the other one in Mbarara.
Very true.
Yes, there's so many things that are challenging, but you are meant to co-parent these children, to build a relationship, to build a vision for them. I'm not asking you to take over your children's life, because some people have a vision,
Very true.
Yes, but we're saying, how do we raise them? How do we discipline them? What's important to us that makes us family? What's the spiritual life going to look like? How is it going to impact everything else? Finances, how are we going to deal with them? Where are we going to take our children? I know my husband started ministries. He said, "You're the minister of education." So at the end of the day, I had the power to make, the authority to make the final decision about schools. But we'd go around to schools together and we'd interview the people, and many people in Uganda would say, "Esente muzirina," and we're like, it's not about the money. We want to know this particular child, God has given me. He's gifted in this way as far as we know. Is this a right school for him? Are you going to build up and fan his gifts, the gifts in him? So this was, it was very, very important to us that, of course, these days the teaching is that he's a priest. Well, we were two priests, but really as a leader, as a head of the family, he should make sure that our spiritual, we are centered in Christ as Christians. As a family praying together when we are too tired, when we've come from overnights, what's happening to the boys' spiritual life, you know? So we must be intentional and also constantly reviewing and saying what's happening in their lives and what can we do to improve.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you believe in the scripture that says, train up a child the way they should go, and when they grow up, they will not depart from it? And why is it that these days very many parents are choosing work over training their children?
Well, parents think that training a child is actually taking them to the best school. And people are working so hard to take them to the school. I think that's trending. We tend to trend with the schools that trend. People are then these other schools that are coming up. So we work so hard. I think the financial gap, before you'd work, and for example, for me as a priest, we grew up knowing that priests, we had access to church founded schools. But now I am competing with everybody else and the Muslim and whoever else.
Yes.
We don't have that privilege anymore. And so things have changed for us. And it takes, even with a father, it takes 1, 2, 3 jobs to get our children to where we want.
Very true.
And everyone wants a child to go further than where they went. And so, yes, the economy is that, but also the callings. We are still living in, and this shouldn't be about a male-dominated, we haven't rethought where the woman's place is, the career woman. Just a few weeks ago, we had a clergy women's conference. Did you know we are 500 priests, female priests in this country?
Wow.
We are 500.
Wow.
And I had young mothers, nursing mothers. You know, now it's free for us. We open that door for those people, young ladies. But now I'm telling them, why isn't it okay to have a season? I know my mother left teaching. She left teaching to raise us. And when my sister was in primary 7, she joined Bank of Uganda. Today, if you join Bank of Uganda, when you're 35, 37, there are no jobs. And I think that's where the fear comes. So you're nursing a child, you're working. I think as a world, we have to rethink. We have to rethink work. COVID made us rethink that people can work from home. There'll be a season when you have empty nest and you have the energy and the health to work. And I don't know why we can't create those new spaces of work so that we don't lose out on training our children. The traffic in Kampala, we used to get home from Nakasero Primary School to Kabanyolo University. If they picked us at 4, we'd arrive home at 4:30. Today you arrive home at 8, at 9, with one eye open, trying to eat your food, do your homework, get ready for bed. Tomorrow we're waking up at 4 a.m. I mean, I think there are new challenges, but I'm thinking we need to create up new spaces for work and building up our careers.
All right, let's get into some of the everyday norms that we see. For example, there are very tough fathers. There are men who are tough fathers. They don't talk to their children. When they come home, they're always pissed on the face, and you can't even say hi, you can't even hug them. And what do you have to say about such men, and how should they, if they're watching us right now, how should they change towards becoming better fathers?
I think, I don't, because I didn't experience that, and some of my friends did. I think it's very hard being a father. I think it really is. And you know, I used to have a placard in my office saying, "I'm not afraid, I have children." Children are scary. And men have been taught that in order to create order, you have to show who the man is in the house. But I want to say they are unique men, and they've learned to create relationship in the house, and to know each child, and to know how they respond to your authority. Many of these men have only seen that. So their role models, probably their fathers, came back, and hey, you know, and that's how they used to show traditionally. But things are changing now, and I think we have to learn, just like we have to relearn how to be mothers that impact our sons and daughters. Men also have to relearn, I don't know, learn something new. Yes, that they can still hold the authority. The other extreme is, you're talking about fathers who shout.
Yes.
We have fathers, we have a generation, we call them the cotton candy. Hey, Omwana good, you don't even allow the child to fall in the dirt. We're raising children who are not normal. Remember, if I was treated badly, no one would touch my child. No one would discipline my child. We haven't been given alternative ways of discipline, positive ways of discipline. Discipline that will be for the good of the child, not to fear you.
Yes.
And I think that's what we have to learn now.
Do you believe in fathers beating children to discipline them?
There must be rules. There must be rules. You see, the rod that the Bible talks about, in Africa, the rod is forbidden. But the rod had many things. The rod is to direct. The rod is to protect. The rod is to guide. Just like you would say, this direction. The rod is to rescue your child
Yes.
from danger. And yes, I'm going to give this example because it made me laugh. There was one lady, bless her soul, she rested last week. I lived in her home, and she had a rule for her grandchildren. If you are doing something wrong, she'd count to 10. And if you haven't stopped by 10, she would tap them. These were 2-3-year-olds, papa, on the pampa, papa. Now, the children knew this rule, and they used to push. They would continue doing till 9.5. So one time, this child got a fork, I think, something metallic, and they were putting it in the electric sock.
Oh
And
my God.
so my friend said 1, 3, 10, and then beat the child, and just tap them. And the child cried, but the child didn't cry because they had been
tapping.
given a little tap. Granny, it is not fair. You didn't count properly. You didn't count up to 10. But remember, you're saving their life.
Of
You're
course.
thinking, this child's going to be electrocuted. The road doesn't work here. This is a life being lost. So I think, one, we don't beat a child in anger. And the rod is not simply beating. Okay?
Yes.
It's teaching, it's guiding, it's directing, it's disciplining. It's disciplining. There can be punishments that have a positive outcome.
Okay. You talked about fathers who, for example, set the rules for their children and say, I want you to be a doctor, I want you to be a nurse, something like that. But we have children today or teenagers today who want, even young adults who want to get into music. I want to sing in a band, I want to sing on stage, and the fathers are not welcoming that calling for their child. Do you think it is wise for parents to let their children choose careers as they please?
Again, there's not enough guidance. We're talking about music. In our day, ogenda mu kidongo. There was no money in it. So it wasn't really dictating. They had a fear that their child would be unable to resource their life and their future. In other countries, there's music. The other thing as Christians, Banangi, there's even in football, when you reach the age 35, 40, that's the end.
Retire.
If you haven't built anything. Even for us as clergy, we now no longer just do theology. We actually I found someone at Namugongo the other day, and he said, I'm doing business administration, and then I'll go into theology. So things are changing. There is money, not that much, in music.
Okay.
But the child's gift can be built up, and it can fit into many things. Ministry, it can. In our days, we thought, especially secular music, went with drugs, went with addictions, went with alcohol, went with being
Sexual immorality,
being half nude. I feel really sorry, because you can be a full woman, be a full man without that, and enjoy your music and your life and your gift.
Very true. Talking about music, there's a group called the Cape Brothers who work with you in ministry. You were telling me that you do healing ministry together, and I would like to understand why Cape Brothers and what made you connect to them.
Cape Brothers, those are my sons. God has brought many sons into my life, and the Cape Brothers are one of them. I met them through Bible Society, and I love a cappella music. I can sing, but not like them. And I loved their sound. And although we came from different denominations, they also, I think they loved me. I learned from my mother to cheer young people on. So I was one of those who cheered them. But I met them, I think we connected at the funeral, the vigil of my late uncle. And they spoke to my heart. They ministered to us in grief. And I kept saying, another one, another one. And then that's how we connected. It's a long story. We started hymn night with them at All Saints Cathedral. We've done many things together. The Nkesiga Cancer Foundation, they always feature there. Now, when I went into the season of early retirement and continued ministry outside the walls of the church, they came and said, Mom, now you're available.
Wow.
And they wanted to be part of my ministry. And so post-COVID, we opened with a Thanksgiving and healing service. And all the people I invited didn't know that I had invited them because they had lost mother, spouse, a child to COVID. I just said, let's come open COVID with a Thanksgiving. And they ministered. And I saw the power of music when you don't have words. I saw the power of music. We continued. We had a Mother's Day. And we ministered and blessed the mothers. But then it moved. We stood and said, what about fathers? You boys are young men. You're getting married. You're beginning to become fathers. We didn't have... Father's Day was coming very close on to Mother's Day. And we tried to do something to mentor boys, but we failed. So we went into studio. And we composed. I literally sat with them in studio and they composed the Father's Day. We said it's going to go viral, this song, so that at least it will be released on Father's Day. And then we got 5-6 men to give brief messages about particular aspects of fatherhood. And that's what we did for Father's Day, and we promised ourselves this year we are going to celebrate fathers.
Okay, so something is happening on the 16th of June, this Friday. Tell us about it.
16th of June is we're going to have a gospel concert, and we want to honor fathers. There are good men out there. There are good fathers. And there are ones who are limping, who would like to learn. And you know, sometimes it takes us to come back and remind them, people, you are a gift in a child's life. You're a gift in a home. Yes, you may have gone astray, but you're a gift. Come back and become that gift. And there are good gifts, there are role models, there are good men out there that we can emulate, that we can learn from, that we can be strengthened in our becoming fathers and men of honor. Okay. So we're going to honor them. Number 2, we want the older men to mentor the younger. So we're going to have some older men speaking into their lives within this show. And then, lastly but not least, the a cappella group, which I think 3 of them are now fathers, and I keep telling them. And we as we do ministry, because we use our voices, our melodies, we don't use any other instrumentation, we need very fine microphones. Yes. And every time we go to minister somewhere, we ministered the other day and we're like, okay, these mics are for speaking at family TV. They can't capture our sound. And it's been very expensive. Every time we want to do ministry, you have to hire. We're hoping some of people will become friends to our ministry and that they will be able to, there's an entry fee, of course. Yes. And it will go to buying those the equipment. We are also empowering boys. 6 boys with incredible voices. Okay. So it's there. We're at Makere, the community hall. 5 p.m. we'll be opening doors. Tickets are actually bought here at Family TV. We also have different tickets at our... Okay. And we have a wonderful guest of honor. Let me first say, we are partnering with Fathers Union. Oh, great. Church of Uganda, Mr. Samuel Bakutana, a wonderful speaker. Yes. The Fathers Union, the Cape Brothers, and other churches are coming together. And our guest of honor is Robert Kavushenga. Wow. Yes. Robert Kavushenga, I've known that name from the media. Yes. So, New Vision, yes. He's retired. He's a father of 3. He's a lovely Christian. Okay. Yes. Any last words to our viewers before we close? As we celebrate Father's Day, we want to thank God for the men who have made us the young ladies we are. We are grateful for fathers who have raised children who are not their own. There are widows who have raised. We are those who have raised children in very difficult situations. I want to say to each one of us that we need to lift our fathers. We have to forgive some of them, but give them another opportunity to rise and take their place, that families may be healed and children may grow up in the security and safety and dignity of a father who deeply loves them, like our God, who loves us and has loved us with an everlasting love. It's that love that will raise our men back into their places and also put us in our rightful place. May God bless you. Please come. Our theme is Tata, a gift from above. We'd love to see you on Friday. Tickets are 20,000, 50,000, and 500K for a table. God bless you. Come and hear our sound. It's amazing. You'll be blessed.
Thank you so much, Reverend Canon Diana Nkesiga, for being with us this morning and giving us an insight when it comes to fathers. Please be there, Makerere Community Hall, 16th June, this Friday, for the a cappella concert by the Cape Brothers in partnership with Fathers Union as well as Reverend Canon Diana Nkesiga. My name is Nowamani. Thank you so much for being a part of Issues at Hand. See you tomorrow. Good day.